Heavenly Power Town Divine Seal? Could it be that it is also a smashing treasure? Suchanga muttered. To do this, he took a special look at the system entry. The treasures just now are not invisible, but the heavenly materials and earth. Treasures are similar, most of them are to increase the power of recovery and recuperation, which is suitable for reviving the corpse of the fairy king. Tianquan Town Divine Seal, the ultimate Tao weapon. When it is sacrificed, it can turn into a majestic giant mountain weighing tens of billions of caddies and fall from the sky, smashing the enemy alive. Groove? Suchanga's eyes showed a hint of surprise. It's really not bad as I thought. Immediately, he looked into the system space. I saw a palm-sized seal suspended there, and the surface of the seal was engraved with endless golden dragon patterns, full of ancient and reckless atmosphere. This is also too terrifying, such a small seal, when the sacrifice is made. Directly make it so big? Tens of billions of caddies of mountains fall from the sky, which still makes people live? To be honest, Suchanga had a little pity on the enemy. Tens of billions of pounds of mountains fell down, whether that person can withstand it, it depends on his creation. Ha ha ha, I like this kind of simple and rude smashing treasure. Retract your gaze. He took out his storage bag and prepared to take away the pool full of water. But when he was about to install it, he suddenly found that the essence in the water had been absorbed and became ordinary water. And the spring stopped spraying. This indicates that the dragon bone marrow has been absorbed. Think about it, after all, the spinal cord is not a natural nourishment, it is limited, and it is gone after absorption. Forget it. He shook his head, drew his attention, and said, Master, go somewhere else. Yi Qingyao led him to continue walking upwards. On the road, it is naturally indispensable to harvest all kinds of high-quality heavenly materials and earth treasures. Yi Qingyao looked at the more and more treasures handed over by the apprentice in her hand, and felt dazed, and the warm current in her heart flowed like spring dew, and the tears of emotion slipped down her eyes. Half an hour later, the two arrived at the dragon's body from the dragon's legs. Suchanga swept his eyes sideways, and saw that the bone fossils on both sides were very huge, flat and smooth, and section after section were connected, like a mountain. If not seen with his own eyes, it was almost terrifying. We've entered the vertebrae of this ancient dragon. Yi Qingyao saw the mystery. Suchanga nodded and immediately looked at the treasures on the ground. This earth is full of spiritual grasses, and all kinds of spiritual herbs, and treasure medicines grow like wheat, which cannot be seen in the outside world, and are extremely valuable. But there are also general herbs. Suchanga harvested all the good ones, and gave them to the master. As for those ordinary ones that did not even look at them, when harvested, it also reaches the middle of the vertebrae. There are many trees growing here, leafy and lush, almost like a forest. Yi Qingyao's eyes lit up, and he pointed to one of them and cheered. Apprentice, it turned out to be the Enlightenment fruit tree. Read more novels for free on our website, tinyurl.com/2AA54Z8B. Suchanga followed the place of her finger. I saw that it was a waist-length sapling. There were not many leaves on it, and it was obviously not fully grown, but the rich aura it exuded already made people feel refreshed. This thing can bear the fruit of enlightenment every year, and if you serve it, you can realize the Tao. Yi Qingyao was overjoyed, and also guessed. Maybe when this dragon was alive, he accidentally ate a seed of the enlightenment fruit tree, and now this seed has finally sprouted. Suchanga shoveled it with a shovel and said, Master, send you. Yi Qingyao took the Wudao fruit tree and planted it in the small world that he carried with him, and his face was full of joy. I have to say that I and my apprentice really made a lot of money this time. Ding. You sent a Wudao fruit tree, tens of billions of subsidies took effect. Triggered an excess critical attack, this excess critical attack multiplier. 910,000 times, congratulations to the host for obtaining Fuso Divine Tree. Fuso Divine Tree? Suchunga's heart moved, feeling that this should be a heavy treasure. Check the system entry now. Fuso God Tree, in primeval mythology, this thing is composed of two large Fuso trees on the eastern sea supporting each other, according to legend, in the primeval period, the sun goddess She and the great god and golden crow drove up from the Fuso tree to complete the day's work, mountain and sea. Sutra overseas Eastern Sutra has a record, there is a Fuso, in the valley of the Tongya, the 10-day bath, in the north of the Black Tooth, which means that the place where the Fuso tree is located, that is, where the sun rises. If it is planted in the soil, it can bear Fuso fruit every autumn, taking it can increase a lot of cultivation and physical strength in a straight line. Su Chang'e was overjoyed. If the fruit of enlightenment produced by the enlightenment fruit tree is used for enlightenment, it can increase the perception of the path of the monk and improve the cultivation, but it is not directly increased. This feels a bit of a head starter. But this Fusang fruit of his own directly increases his cultivation and physical strength. This is refreshing. Boom. Not long after walking forward, Yi Qingyao suddenly found something on the ground again, and said, "Apprentice, look quickly, Vientian heavenly thunder." Sutra. Huh? Suchunga frowned, and saw an ancient Taoist scripture lying on the ground, with a strange shape, covered with dust, and full of ancient and reckless, mysterious atmosphere. And the big characters engraved on the cover are the Vientian Heavenly Thunder Sutra. I once heard the sect master say that this Tao Sutra shined in the primeval era. It was a glorious era, a saint was born, raised his head to the sky, and guided the heavenly thunder, forging hundreds of millions of miles of heavenly firmament into a terrifying thunder sea. I really didn't expect that we could find this ancient Tao Sutra here. Yi Qingyao opened her mouth to explain, and also guessed, maybe this is another dragon that accidentally ate it, and we picked it up cheaply. Suchunga was overjoyed, and immediately picked up the book and stuffed it into Yi Qingyao's palm. Master, take it. Ding. You sent the Vientian Heavenly Thunder Sutra, tens of billions of subsidies took effect, triggered an excess critical attack, this excess critical attack multiplier, 920,000 times, congratulations to the host for obtaining Demon God Martial Technique. Demon God Martial Technique? What do you mean? Suchunga's brows furrowed slightly, and he looked at the entry. Demon God Martial Tips, Taiku Martial Tips, divided into 180 layers, cultivated to the extreme, the strength in the body is self circulating, endless, can make the cultivator in battle to nourish the war. The more courageous the battle. Is it the meaning of fighting harder and harder, fighting more and more? Suchunga seemed to understand. At this moment, Yi Qingyao suddenly noticed that something was emitting red light in the distance, and hurriedly walked there to take a look. Suchunga followed. When I got closer, I saw a big red cassock dropped there, and the surface of the cassock was inlaid with various gold-rimmed patterns, Sanskrit Buddha trumpets, and Taoist fish patterns, faintly exuding infinite mystery. Yi Qingyao's breathing suddenly became rapid. He lost his voice. My God, it turned out to be such a treasure. Suchunga was puzzled. Master, what is this? Devil Descent Robe. Yi Qingyao took a deep breath and said, the sect master once said that in the primeval era, a high-level monk who used means to reach the heavens, descend demons, and can do anything, and the robe on his body is contaminated with rich Buddha nature for many years, turning into a devil-lowering robe. Just by offering it, you can easily subdue the 18 demons and monsters. Without saying a word, Suchanga immediately picked up the object and said, Master, take it. Yi Qingyao's wrist trembled and took it. Ding. Ding. You sent the devil-lowering robe, tens of billions of subsidies took effect, triggered an excess critical attack, this excess critical attack multiplier, 926,000 times. Congratulations to the host for obtaining Light Zen Magic Clothing. Light Zen Robe? Listening to the name so hanging, it should be very good, right? Suchanga looked at the system entry. Light Zen Robe, attack and defense are integrated, demons, monsters, and spirits are not close. If you dare to get close, the 3 zhang will automatically explode into a blood mist. Lying groove, really bull batch. Suchanga suddenly let out a joyful sigh. Yi Qingyao suddenly took his hand and said, Apprentice, there should be better ahead, let's go quickly. The 2 quickly walked into the depths. Gradually, the bones on both sides became smaller and smaller, the bones became more and more pointed, like a sharp sword, and the road ahead became narrower and narrower. Suchanga estimated that this was almost the tail of the dragon. Along the way, he harvested endless heavenly materials and earth treasures. Elixir treasures. Ding. You sent 1,000 years of Dihuang essence, tens of billions of subsidies took effect, triggered an excess critical attack, this excess critical attack multiplier, 935,000 times. Congratulations to the host for obtaining Heaven and Earth Shanhuang fruit. Ding. You sent Amethyst Dragon Imperial Ginseng, tens of billions of subsidies took effect, triggered an excess critical attack, this excess critical attack multiple, 938,000 times. Congratulations to the host for obtaining Qishang Dragon Scale Fruit. Soon, the fossilized bones on both sides of the passage disappeared, and the bones took on the shape of a huge tail throat, pointed, but huge. Obviously, this is the dragon's tail. Suchanga scanned the surroundings, and suddenly found a mysterious bone box on the cave wall. This is formation. Yi Qingyao glanced at it, her beautiful eyes suddenly shone brightly, and said happily, accompanied by the dragon tail array. She then continued, it's just that this great array lost its effect due to the death of the dragon, and we were able to penetrate deeply. Suchanga nodded. Just needed a formation to block the private bank, but I never thought that this would come. What a bonus. He picked up the dragon tail box and handed it to the beautiful master, saying, Master, you will activate it another day, just enough to be installed on our pear blossom peak. Yi Qingyao nodded and smiled, I also have this intention. Ding. You sent the accompanying dragon tail array, tens of billions of subsidies took effect, triggered an excess critical attack, this excess critical attack multiple, 929,000 times. Congratulations to the host for obtaining innate sun array. Oh? It turned out to be an innate level treasure. A flash of surprise flashed in Suchanga's eyes. Everything in this world, if strictly divided, belongs to nature and nurture. Innate things have existed since the beginning of heaven and earth, and they are extremely mysterious and quaint. And the day after tomorrow, the effect is far less than the innate. Read more novels for free on our website, tinyurl.com/2AA54Z8B. He looks at the system entry. Innate sun array. It already existed before the opening of the sky. It is a congenital prohibition for Dongying Punlai Immortal Island, containing endless esoteric and mysterious formation methods. The formation is reasonable, and it is put down for a while, even if the Saint Powerhouse wants to break the formation. It takes painstaking comprehension for 100 years, but even if it is comprehended for 100 years, it may not be able to successfully break it. Bull cow. Suchanga was overjoyed to fall from the sky. Then, he walked towards the depths of the dragon's tail. Just 2 steps away, I saw a piece of dead wood. This dead wood is about the length of an arm, with a blue flame on its surface, and a bark like a large locust tree. Suchanga looked at it for a long time, but did not see what this object was. Turned his head and asked, "Master, do you recognize this object?" Yi Qingyao looked at it for a while and said, "The sect master once said that there is an ancient wood in this world that emits a blue glow, and that glow is like a blue flame in hell, called the 1,000-year-old gloomy wood. I think this is probably the thing." It turned out to be this kind of thing. Suchanga nodded and asked again, "What's the use?" Unexpectedly, Yi Qingyao shook his head, spread his hands, and said, "I don't know this." The sect master only said so much at the beginning, and did not say the role of this thing. "Then let's take it first." Suchanga didn't ask more anymore, and gave the 1,000-year-old gloomy wood to Yi Qingyao. Ding. You sent 1,000 years of gloomy wood, tens of billions of subsidies. Took effect, triggered an excess critical attack. This excess critical attack multiplier, 940,000 times. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 10,000 years of dragon tendon wood. Suchanga looked at the system entry. 10,000 year dragon tendon wood, the wood formed by the precipitation and transformation of dragon tendon over 10,000 years, is extremely tough and is an indispensable material for forging the ultimate Taoist tool. Could it be that the 1,000-year-old gloomy wood is also a material for forging Tao tools? A realization flashed in Suchanga's eyes. Next, he went deep into the dragon's tail, picked the heavenly materials and treasures that grew in this place, and harvested all the good ones. Where it passes, there's only garbage. Thanks to this, he made a lot of money. It is worth mentioning that whether it is those harvested earlier or those harvested now, Suchanga has left a hard eye and did not leave a trace. How can it not leave a trace? After the treasure is harvested, the soil is returned to cover it, and it is old, showing that there is no trace of artificial harvesting, creating a kind of garbage that only grows here. Time passed slowly, and an hour passed in the blink of an eye. At this time, in the depths of the dragon's tail, including near the dragon's tail, all the various excellent heavenly materials and earth treasures that grew were all harvested by Suchanga, and all given to Yi Qingyao. The apprentice is so good to me, so touched. Yi Qingyao held so many heavenly materials and earth treasures that exuded rich spiritual energy, and her heart was warm, and she had a feeling of being cared for and loved deeply. And tears filled her eyes. Ding. You sent the dragon tail periosteum grass, tens of billions of subsidies took effect, triggered the excess critical attack. This excess critical attack multiplier, 945,000 times. Congratulations to the host for obtaining mixed element creation grass. Ding. You sent the dragon tail agarwood, tens of billions of subsidies took effect, triggered the excess critical attack. This excess critical attack multiplier, 947,000 times. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 10,000 years immortal wood. P.S. Randomly pick a love letter sent by Mingfeng Bang Jiangnan, thank you. Crab. Master, all the good things here have been bagged, we should go elsewhere. After checking all the treasures returned from the subsidy, Su Chang'e patted Yi Qingyao, who was unable to extricate herself from being moved. Being slapped like this, Yi Qingyao suddenly slowed down and hurriedly said, "Oh, yes, go elsewhere." She took Su Chang'e's hand with her slender jade hand, walked out of the dragon's tail, and turned around and walked back. Just now, the two first entered from the claws, straight to the vertebrae, all the way to the dragon's tail. And now coming out of the dragon's tail, it is naturally time to go to the head. Walking through the places that have been walked, I have harvested a lot of heavenly treasures along the way. I also took it to see among the other 3 legs, and the harvested heavenly materials and earth treasures naturally need not be mentioned, and there was also an unexpected joy, and obtained 30 pieces of dragon toe gold. Then, the two headed upwards, walked through the vertebrae, and soon succeeded in reaching the dragon's head. This is the last place for this dragon. As soon as he stepped here, Su Chang'e found that he seemed to have come to the eye socket of this ancient dragon, and when he entered his eyes, he saw 2 huge holes, each as large as 3 or 4 kilometers, and he could see the thousands of waters and mountains in the distance outside, and his visual senses were extremely terrifying. He turned his head and said, "Master, we are now inside the dragon's head." Bone. Yi Qingyao looked around and sighed, "Yes, as a dragon head here, there are so many treasures." Looking down, I saw that the ground was full of Ganoderma lucidum, and there were countless elixirs, and all kinds of precious and rare medicinal herbs were like grasses everywhere, as many as cow hair, and there were even many that she couldn't even name. "Apprentice, this is too much, you didn't cultivate, the harvest is a little slow, or I'll come." She was afraid that Su Chang'e would be tired, so she took out a long sword. And with a bang, she cut off the heavenly materials and earth treasures all over the ground. She harvested in front, and Su Chang'e held storage bags in the back. The two have a tacit understanding, as if they are of the same heart. Soon, the ground seemed to have been walked by a harvester, and all kinds of heavenly materials and earth treasures were all packed into Su Chang'e's storage bag. 2 hours later. Ding. You sent the dragon pith earth treasure medicine, tens of billions of subsidies took effect, triggered an excess critical attack, this excess critical attack multiplier, 948,000 times, congratulations to the host for obtaining Sun Soul Return Ointment. Ding. You sent the dragon essence medicine, tens of billions of subsidies took effect, triggered an excess critical attack, this excess critical attack multiple, 949,000 times, congratulations to the host for obtaining Tyene Jeweling Ointment. Subsequently, Su Chang'e began to check all the treasures except the heavenly materials and earth treasures. Soon, a golden ding was found in a bone crack. The big ding is several feet tall, covered with patina, 3-legged round ears, solid and heavy, exuding an ancient and barbaric atmosphere. Yi Qingyao only glanced at it, and suddenly his eyes enlarged, and he blurted out, "Ultimate Dao Instrument, Yin Yang Furnace." Su Chang'e didn't talk nonsense, and said directly, "Master, quickly accept it." Ding. You sent the ultimate Dao Instrument Yin Yang Furnace, tens of billions of subsidies took effect, triggered the excess critical attack, this excess critical attack multiple, 950,000 times, congratulations to the host for Obtaining, mixed element level Dao instrument Taichu oven. Lying groove, mixed element level? Suchanga was stunned, and he was overjoyed. Mixed element level Dao instrument, this is a top-level Dao instrument. Look immediately into the system space. I saw that there was an extra 100 zhangtal big ding, full of mysterious and unfathomable aura, surrounded by infinite rhymes, and spewed out extremely ancient reckless chi machines. Read more novels for free on our website, tinyurl.com/2aa54z8b. Review the system entry. Taichu oven, can refine muscles and bones, can refine good pills, and can also lift the furnace, to quench the soul. Awesome. Suchanga is happy to fall from the sky. 1 Dao instrument, 3 functions, refining the body, refining the pill, refining the divine soul, 3 in 1, this is refreshing. In addition to being surprised, he also glanced at the beautiful master, and his eyes showed deep love. I have to say that it's really cool for the beautiful master to open the back door for herself. At this time, Yi Qingyao suddenly noticed something and said, "Apprentice, that seems to have a big gun." Suchanga looked over there, and suddenly found a long spear like a golden dragon spitting letters, pure gold throughout, with a trace of electricity wrapped around it, emitting a roar of electricity. "Master, send you." Ding. You sent the Xianlong big gun, tens of billions of subsidies took effect, triggered the excess critical attack, this excess critical attack multiplier, 958,000 times, congratulations to the host for obtaining, God. Killer gun. Here. Yi Qingyao put the big gun into the storage bag, and after looking for it for a long time, he successfully found dozens of weapons, more than 20 kinds of top-grade Dao weapons, all of which were all-powerful tools used in the primeval era. She initially guessed that perhaps in the primeval period, this dragon fought with many powerful people, swallowed them in their belly, and obtained the weapons they used, but she did not expect to be picked up by her own master and apprentice in later generations. At this moment, she suddenly sensed a breath, looked up, and was immediately surprised. "Apprentice, there seems to be a keel that has not yet been fossilized." Huh? Suchanga's heart suddenly moved. How many years have passed since primeval times, and there is still a fresh bone? If the keel enters the body, how awesome should it become? Look over there immediately. I saw that above the head, a skull was like beautiful jade, crystal clear, shining brightly, exuding the coercion of a true dragon. This coercion is like a vast and boundless galaxy, even if it has died for hundreds of millions of years, it still conveys a strong sense of oppression. Sacred, vicissitudes, quaint, and undesecrated, which is daunting. Most importantly, in that skull, there was still a wisp of true dragon origin. Qi circulating. My God, apprentice, this should be the biggest surprise of our trip. Yi Qingyao sensed this true dragon origin qi, and the cherry mouth opened wide, surprised and delighted. Suchanga was also overjoyed and said excitedly, "Not bad, this should be the strongest treasure here, master, you take it down and fuse it." Unexpectedly, Yi Qingyao shook her head like a rattle and said, "Apprentice, can you obey me once this time? I want to fuse this to you, I want you to become strong." A slap hit her. "Master," Suchanga withdrew his slap and said with a hearty smile, "If you refuse again, then it will be more serious next time, don't refuse." Ah. It turns out that you really came. Yi Qingyao's white and flawless face suddenly became like a burning cloud in the sky, red to the depths of her soul. The apprentice beats the master. If this is passed on, who dares to believe it? She bit her red lip and wanted to say something more, but finally didn't say anything, stepped forward and put the dragon skull into the storage bag. She didn't choose to fuse either. Instead, he plans to wait for the apprentice to be able to cultivate in the future, and then fuse him when the time comes, even if he hits himself hard at that time, he will admit it. Ding. You sent the Taiku dragon skull, triggering. Ding. You sent the skull of the Taiku dragon, tens of billions of subsidies. Took effect, triggered an excess critical attack, this excess critical attack. Multiplier, 1,000,000 times, congratulations to the host for obtaining a complete Taiku dragon keel. 1,000,000 times. Suchanga looked at the excessive crit that skyrocketed to 1,000,000 times. His mood was surging, and then he looked at the keel, and he was suddenly ecstatic. A glance at the system space. I saw a golden divine light suspended there. When the divine light dissipated, a complete keel was revealed. The true dragon backbone stood like a divine weapon, surrounded by endless mysterious runes, and there were also infinite patterns on the keel, flowing thousands of brilliant divine radiance. Thousands of divine lights, thousands of colors. Ha ha ha. Refreshing. Refreshing. It's so cool. Su Chang'e shouted in his heart, full of pride, full of red light. Yi Qingyao was still looking for treasures, but his divine sense swept away. But he found that all the precious treasures in this place had already been scavenged by his master and apprentice. The rest of them are all like chicken ribs, such as low-grade medicinal herbs, such as 4-leaf clover and 7-colored flowers, and some low-grade soldiers who cannot be named and are covered with patina. Apprentice, this place has been swept clean by you and me, but the treasures are all obtained by me. I'm a little weird and embarrassed. She looked at Suchanga, her beautiful eyes flowed with brilliance, emotion, and affection. It is clear that when he came, he said that he would sweep everything here to him, but as a result, it all fell into his own hands. What did Master say about? Suchanga waved his hand indifferently, and said, with a generous smile, isn't it just some treasures, where are you? Important? Besides, aren't your whole person mine? So we don't have to divide each other's. Yi Qingyao couldn't help but nod. It seems to be such a reason. But in the next moment, she suddenly reacted and suddenly grasped the point. His whole person is his? In an instant, her pretty face turned red again, like a piece of red light. Her index fingers were nervously crossed, and she lowered her head. God, how could he say such fleshy love words? I'm not married yet. Okay, let's go. Suchanga took her hand, took a step towards the huge hole in front of her, which was the dragon's eye socket, and also said, Master, don't be stunned, quickly take out your flying boat, we are leaving here. Good, good. Yi Qingyao returned to her senses, her heart was as sweet as eating honey, took out the flying boat, and flew out from the dragon's eyes. The flying boat itself is already big enough, 1,000 meters long, but in front of this huge eye socket, it is not more than a third of it. After the flying boat flew out, it seemed to pass through a transparent barrier after a while, and suddenly appeared in the outside world. This place is already out of the enchantment. Immediately after, the flying boat flew towards the southern part of the host domain. Read more novels for free on our website, tinyurl.com/2AA54Z8B. They had just left for less than a moment. A group of figures arrived here, each standing in the void like a god, with the aura of a landslide and tsunami erupting from his body. These people are not bystanders, it is Du Sihai and others. A dead man looked down at the hills below and said, "Peak Lord, this is it. Without further ado, hurry." Du Sihai was a thief with a weak heart, and immediately beckoned all the dead men to take Huang Jiolong down. But before he could act, he suddenly noticed the howling wind behind him, and a figure riding in a golden chariot. The cloak on the chariot was like an umbrella cover. Du Sihai's heart was shocked, and he immediately turned his head to look. Suddenly, I saw the curtain of the chariot open, and a pair of surprised and inexplicable faces appeared inside. "Are you?" The person who came turned out to be an ice concubine. Du Sihai was also slightly startled and said, "Ice Peak Lord, why are you here?" Bing. You suddenly felt embarrassed. She was more selfish and wanted to pocket all the treasures of this place alone, but she didn't expect to run into Du Sihai. She didn't speak, and the two sides looked at each other awkwardly and looked at each other. Both sides were tacit, and for a moment they even forgot to speak. After a while, it was still Huang Jiolong who spoke, "Ice Peak Lord, since they are all here, let's grab the treasures according to their abilities." "How?" Bing. You nodded awkwardly. Immediately, the two sides found the entrance to the enchantment and successfully entered the dragon's body using the method provided by the sect. Master. 3 hours later, they came out. One by one, their faces turned blue with anger, and they cursed. "Mother, what kind of garbage place, all ordinary visible garbage, I don't want to send me." Du Sihai was furious. "Fuck, I thought there must be some treasures in this ancient dragon's body. Who knows that all of them are some unruly medicinal herbs, what garbage places, I bah." Bing Fei trembled with anger. As for Huang Jiolong, he felt a wave of anger rush from the heart of his feet to the top of his head, and roared, What kind of bird place is this? Bai is happy, me off." Some of the dead men behind him were even more livid, and a nameless fire in their chests was burning more and more, and they couldn't wait to smash this keel with one punch. But it doesn't have that strength. In the end, everyone was discouraged and returned to the sect sullenly. Thousands of miles away, the flying boat flew steadily in midair. In the cabin, Yi Qingyao looked at the full storage bag. Her heart was sweet and melting, her red lips opened lightly, and she muttered with some longing, "Apprentice Su Chang'e is not here. The flying boat arrived here just now, and after arriving, Su Chang'e took the opportunity to go out, leaving her alone to wait here. So far, it has been waiting for half a column of incense time. Below, there is a mountain range that stretches for thousands of miles, and the mountains are empty and lush." At this time, Su Chang'e entered a hidden cave. He came here to fuse the keel and cultivate the demon god martial technique. After sitting down in the cave, he directly took out the innate sun array and sealed the place so as not to expose his breath. He didn't notice that when he laid down the large array, a shocked voice came from a transparent enchantment space not far from him, lying groove. "Why is the old man sealed? This is a great power of the Ascension period, here in seclusion for 3 million years. At this moment, his eyes are extremely shocked to look at Su Chang'e. This great power could clearly feel that the great array laid down by this young man could not even break free. The entire mountain range was blocked by this forbidden force, and faintly he had an intuition, not to mention himself, even if a saint-level powerhouse came, I am afraid that he would have to bow his head in front of this large array. I'm a big grass, could it be that this young man is a top formation mage? He was surprised. Over here, Su Chang'e had already looked at the system. Space. As soon as his mind moved, the medicinal herbs and treasures that were subsidized by the system first were all absorbed by the fairy queen corpse in the system space. Oh! Under the blessing of the massive elixir heavenly materials and earth treasures, the complexion of the fairy queen's corpse became more and more rosy, as if it was a big living person, but it was just a deep sleep. But she was born extremely beautiful, naturally beautiful. Cherry lips are rosy, and at the moment she looks like a sleeping beauty, which has a special charm. Subsequently, Suchanga took out the Taichu oven and poured the hot snake blood into it. This snake blood is a big snake that he just punched in the mountain range. This is a good treasure for refining the flesh. Toot toot, the snake's blood was steaming hot, very hot. Suchanga's eyelids did not blink, jumped directly into it, and began to refine his flesh. Not far away, the power of the Ascension realm was shocked. Groove. It turned out to be a primordial oven. I'm afraid that my master doesn't have a Dao weapon of this level. This young man is awesome. Here, Suchanga was not idle when refining his flesh, and with a move in his mind, he took out the complete Taiku dragon bone. Boom. Splashes. The moment the keel appeared, the entire sun array instantly shone brightly. Golden light, circulating tens of thousands of strips, and then turned into a treasure light, screamed, and did not enter Suchanga's body. Moo. In an instant, a low moo came from his body, like the roar of the cow that suppressed the flood-barren world, and like the roar of the fierce beast of the nine hells. A divine vicissitude swept the entire mountain range in an instant, like a strong divine thought sweeping across the vast earth inch by inch. But 3 breaths. Breath down. Suchanga looked inside his body and found that the bones of his body were like a layer of sacred and strong dragon bones, becoming thick and majestic. And Kongwu was powerful. The whole person is like a humanoid dragon, as long as the breath is slightly moved, a terrifying true dragon oppression will erupt. Boom. Breakthrough. Crazy breakthrough. Fuse the keel, the breath skyrockets, and step into the star soul realm. Star spirit realm is a heavy heaven. Star spirit realm triple heaven. Star spirit realm 5 heavens. Star spirit realm 7 heavens. Star spirit realm 9 heavens. Star soul 6 realms, star spirit, star yuan, star lord, star king, star heart, star soul, star ancestor. Boom. As he stepped into the star soul realm, his physical strength also climbed. Step by step. 2.5 billion caddies. 2.6 billion caddies. 2.8 billion caddies. 3 billion caddies. Phew. Suchanga let out a long breath. I have to say that the fusion of the ancient dragon keel, coupled with the refining of the primordial oven, the improvement brought by it is too huge. And the effect of the 2 treasures is superimposed layer by layer, and the strength of the flesh body has been raised to a terrifying 3 billion gene. If this punch goes down, I don't know what amazing destructive power it will cause. Shoo. This coercion. It's terrible. The power of the Ascension realm was stunned, his pupils contracted violently, and his whole body was trembling, as if he saw a primeval true dragon ascending to the world. His legs were soft, and he couldn't help but gasp for a few breaths. Suchanga didn't waste time, took a deep breath, and took out the demon god. Martial technique. Read more novels for free on our website, tinyurl.com/2AA54Z8B. Without unnecessary movements, he immediately began to cultivate. Soon, First floor. Second layer. 10th floor. The 100th floor. The 150th floor. The 160th floor. The 180th floor. Full floor. Boom. 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 There was a violent explosion in the body, and the chi and blood in the body were like dragons surging in the sky. Blood and flesh rioted like thousands of troops galloping, emitting a terrifying earthquake sound. At this moment, Suchanga could truly feel that the endless flesh gods in his body were hiding in the riot, and every drop of blood and cell circulated endlessly in the various meridian blood vessels, surging and bursting out like a thunderous explosion. He exhaled and spoke, and his whole body was shaking. I only felt that my body was full of strength, and the whole person's spirit was unprecedentedly high, and the fighting spirit was high. Boom. Breakthrough. Breakthrough again. Star Yuan Realm 1 Heavy Heaven. Star Yuan Realm Duo Heaven. Star Yuan Realm 4 Heavens. Star Yuan Realm 7 Heavens. Star Yuan Realm 9 Heavens. Cultivating the demon god martial technique made his cultivation break through a great realm again, and a terrifying aura fluctuation erupted in his body, like a vast and boundless deep sea, turbulent and unfathomable. Groove. Another breakthrough. The ascension power was stunned again, his jaw almost fell to the ground, and he exclaimed, "My mother, is this still human? It's only been a few breaths, even breaking 18 realms, is it so terrifying?" He Dao Xiankong old ancestor, 300 years ago, he began to choose to retreat here in seclusion, and now that such a long time has passed, his cultivation has only improved slightly, breaking through a small realm. Crazy, really crazy, this sun is really against the sky, even breaking through so many realms in such a very short time. This terrifying speed has never been seen even by the old man's master. Compared with him, the old man has cultivated to the dog for more than 300 years, and his cultivation is as if he has never moved, which is really ashamed. Old ancestor Xiankong is ashamed of himself, and he can't wait to die here. At this moment, Suchanga's ears suddenly moved, as if he heard something. His eyebrows moved, and he turned his head to look over. With the blessing of the great market refining soul sutra, his gaze saw an old figure through the layers of space. The figure had white hair and looked like decay, as if it was about to enter the earth. "I'm..." Chao Xiankong old ancestor sensed this gaze, and suddenly his heart was shocked, a little panicked, and he thought, "Did you find me? But I'm clearly not born yet. For these 300 years, he has been sitting here, not being born, and..." Before the retreat, he cut off any cause and effect entanglement with the world, as if there was no such person in the world. But now, someone discovered his existence? He felt deep disbelief, and Furue Wubua's face was full of shock. It was really hard to believe. Here, Suchanga looked at the empty space in front of him, and did not speak. What else should he do? He casually took out a large handful of supreme-grade elixirs, stuffed them into his mouth like jelly beans, and chewed them. Groove? Old ancestor Xuankong's eyes fell to the ground, and his eyes widened in shock. "Don't you want money for the supreme-grade elixir? What kind of big family is this?" Suchanga took out the light Zen robe and put it on. Suddenly, a mysterious and unfathomable Dao rhyme swept out of the body, and the rich Dao rhyme was like a shooting star, like the stars in the sky. Dazzling. Old ancestor Xiankong, "I'm a stumbler. What is this special? It's so eye-catching." Suchanga looked at himself and said, "It's quite fit. Immediately, he took out the heavenly power town divine seal and said, "Try the power. Raise your hand." The divine seal of Tianquan town flew out, and when it saw the wind, it soared to the size of a majestic mountain range in an instant, smashing into a large mountain in the distance. That mountain is a majestic sacred mountain that has stood for thousands of years, and it is indestructible. However, the divine seal of Tianquan town fell, and the weight of tens of billions of caddies crushed down, like smashing a small ant to death, and directly smashed it into the ground without much effort. Boom! Boom! The mountain was razed to the ground, and even the surrounding ground collapsed downward, billowing smoke. Good. Good. You can go back. Suchonga took back the divine seal, took the Taichu oven back to the storage bag, and walked out of the cave happily. Looking at his distant back, old ancestor Shankong fell silent and deep self-doubt. Speechless for a long time. P.S. 2 in 1 chapter. In fact, it can be split into 2 chapters and sent in the name of plus more and explosive change, but I don't want to do that, too. Lie to you is to lie to myself. 1 chapter to read is cool without turning. The chapter is crisp and neat. In addition, grand thanks to yesterday, Sword, sent more popping flowers. *1 and big healthcare *1. The thighs are so thick, the little author is very excited, more is moved, crab. Thank you so much. Out of the cave, Suchonga shouted to the sky, "Master." When Yi Qingyao heard this, she immediately retreated and took him up to the flying boat. Suchonga didn't cultivate, how could he fly up? He wouldn't have made that little mistake. In the cabin, Yi Qingyao's face turned a little pale and said, "Apprentice, I don't know what happened just now." A huge Dao weapon appeared out of nowhere, and it raised that mountain range to the ground like a decay. It's terrifying. With that, he opened the window and pointed to the mountain in the distance. The mountains were full of chaos, extremely miserable, and bursting into the sky. Suchonga glanced at it, didn't say much, and said with a light smile, "Master, leave those alone, let's go on a tour." Also, Yi Qingyao returned to her senses, and then asked, "Apprentice, where do you want to go?" Suchonga took her into his arms, and said with a smile, "Master, I'll just follow your ass." Hearing this, Yi Qingyao's pretty face suddenly turned crimson, like a pink bud blooming, and Xian was red. In fact, I have a place that I have seen for a long time, but I haven't been there. Come, I'll take you. Yi Qingyao muttered softly. Then his mind moved, and the flying boat rode across the sky and galloped away in a southeast direction. A few hours later, the ship arrived at the edge of the host domain. This is it. Yi Qingyao collected the flying boat and took Suchonga down into the sky. Suchonga looked up and saw that there was a mundane small city in front of him. The small town is small, like a slightly larger village. The walls are made of yellow mud mixed with wheat straw, only more than 1 person tall, and you can see the scene of the city on tiptoe. When he tiptoed, he saw that the city was full of mud huts, and the streets were full of poor mortals, wearing worn-out patches on their clothes. It looks very backward and poor. Suchonga said. This is the most backward place in the host region. Yi Qingyao explained. With a smile, and when the words fell, she asked again, "Do you know why I brought you here?" Suchonga shook his head and said, "Master, please speak." Yi Qingyao suddenly became sad, her expression was very low, and said, "Actually, apprentice, I said before that taking you out on a trip is not just for travel, but also to find a way back for us in the future. Huang Jiulong's qualifications are against the sky. If we really grow up, we will not have a good life, so I want to find a mundane small city in advance. And when the time comes, I will come to live here incognito, and choose one person and one city to grow old, do you think? Read more novels for free on our website, tinyurl.com/2aa54z8b. Suchanga smiled lightly and did not answer. By the way, Yi Qingyao suddenly had an epiphany. I almost forgot, I have to take the Mother Master too, and Xinyu, I have to take it too. But that's going to be talked about later, let's go to the city for now. She took Suchanga's hand and entered the city gate. This is a very old city gate, say it is a city gate, rather than a wooden plank, with the sound of squeaking wood turning. Suchanga and Yi Qingyao walked in like this. Everywhere you see the scene of poverty and backwardness, and many city dwellers have been facing the lust with their backs to the sky for generations, cultivating their fields, and at the age of only 20, they have suffered from the wind and rain and the pressure of life, and their faces are vicissitudes and very old. When these city-dwelling people saw a pair of bright brocade-dressed people entering the city, they all showed their eyes in amazement, not understanding why suddenly a rich and noble person was willing to come here. Apprentice, I've seen this place many times, it's poorer, don't mind. Yi Qingyao bit her lip and pulled his hand a little tighter for no reason. Suchanga said with a smile, how can it be, no matter where master picks, I like it. Then I'll take you to find a house. Yi Qingyao powdered peach blossoms and led him towards the city, ready to buy a house. What she didn't notice was that since she entered the city, she had been stared at by a gaze. In a dilapidated land temple on the left side of the city gate, a pair of eyes looked straight at her distant figure. Mother, there are such beautiful beauties in the world. The person who spoke was a rough-looking black man with a beard on his face. He is a bully here, surnamed Xing, self-proclaimed town guanxi, proficient in eating, drinking, gambling, usually harming the township, gathering a group of thugs specializing in stealing chickens, dogs, fish and meat people. The business of wives and robbing people's daughters can be described as evil deeds, causing countless people in the small city to complain, but they dare not oppose it, because he is competitive, and he will explode at one point. And provoking him will definitely cause human life. Once a man provoked him, and then in broad daylight, he was hacked to death in the street. Since then, no one has dared to say a word of rebuttal in front of the town of Kansi. Right now, Zheng Guanxi looked at Yi Qingyao's graceful and beautiful figure. His black eyes flashed with greed and longing, licked his lips, and said, hopefully, damn, this lady is really good, lousy must get it. His heart is itching, like an evil fire, strange. Itchy. Intolerable. Yi Qingyao is absolutely beautiful regardless of his appearance and temperament. Even some cultivators will fall in love when they see it, let alone this ordinary man. In his life, he had never seen such a beautiful one. With his identity, he couldn't touch the cultivator at all, it was a heavenly, immortal, unattainable. But he is not a brainless person, and after watching it for a short time, he pondered, follow quietly first to see if there is a background. If not, then hey. He went out of the land temple, sneakily following behind Yi Qingyao. His eyes were straight and he couldn't move his mind, all the way to his heart. It's itchy and drooling. Ahead. Yi Qingyao took Suchanga away not long ago and came to a corner of the small city. There are many houses here, and the courtyard wall is an adobe wall, and there are basically 2 or 3 thatched huts inside. Apprentice, this small city is very backward, if you choose here, Huang. Jiolong is high, and he will definitely not think that we are hiding in such a place. Yi Qingyao explained softly. Su Changge understood and nodded. Is this an experience of human suffering and suffering with a beautiful teacher? It seems to be a good feeling. He was thinking here, and Yi Qingyao went to the street to ask some city residents, posting the news that he wanted to buy a house. Soon, an old woman arrived. Girl, you want to buy a house? The old woman asked. Yes. Yi Qingyao was very satisfied here. The old woman looked at her a little more, and said with some questions, You are dressed brightly, your temperament is good, I think you must be some rich and noble people. Why can't other prosperous capitals live but come to our backward and barren ruining city? Yi Qingyao naturally would not explain the real situation, and said kindly. Mother-in-law, it's not a secret, we are from the Qishua city clan. Originally engaged in the medicinal materials business, but recently many cultivators from Qishua city have come to monopolize the business. My husband and I are both mortals, fighting for them, but dare not offend, so I had to sell our family wealth and move here incognito. When Zhen Guanqi, who was hiding in the secret, heard her words, he immediately smiled secretly and said, It turned out to be a fleer. Gee, then you can't escape my 5-finger mountain. The old woman nodded and said, In this case, you will come with me. Along a street, she brought Su Changge and the two to a house. The walls of the house are also made of yellow mud and wheat straw glued together, which is the old-fashioned method of building walls, while in the courtyard, 3 huts, a kitchen, a bedroom, and a granary are built. This house has been uninhabited since it was built. It has fallen into disrepair. If you don't dislike it, how about here? The old woman pushed open the wooden door and said. Yi Qingyao walked in and looked in the various rooms for a while, only to see that it was really in disrepair. Spider webs remained everywhere, and many of the furniture in the house was also dusty, exuding the smell of old ash. But overall, it's pretty good. She actually didn't want to live in someone else's house, a bit of a diaphragm. And it's nice that there has been no one living here. As for cleaning this kind of thing, as a monk, she can shake all the dust cobwebs with a coercive pressure, a trivial matter. How much? She turned to ask. It's nice if someone buys it, 2,000 gold coins. The old woman gives a reasonable number. Su Changge directly took out 2,000 gold coins and gave them to her. When the old woman was leaving, she suddenly remembered something and turned around and explained, In the house next wall, there lives a mysterious woman. From Zhongzhou, she has lived here for more than 3 years, she likes to be quiet, you usually don't disturb her. Good. Yi Qingyao nodded and agreed. By the way, there is also the town of Guanqi at the gate of the city. He is our bully. You are new to life, you are not familiar with life, don't provoke him. Speaking of this, the old woman looked at Su Changge again and said. Especially you, don't show up with your wife has a beautiful appearance. If you walk on the street, you will definitely be targeted by him. When the time comes, you will suffer a severe beating, or die at worst, and your wife will be taken away. Alas, I also talk a lot, remember my words. Su Changge's eyes were cold. What is the difference between this and the school bully in the previous life? Who saw that your girlfriend looked good, came to beat you, and robbed your girlfriend? He saluted, Thank you mother-in-law for reminding. Then the old woman left. Next, Yi Qingyao and Su Changge began to clean their own warm little home. The two cooperated tacitly, took some water to clean the house, and then went to buy some new furniture, raised a few pots of flowers in the bedroom, and planted some green bamboo in front of the door. It didn't take long for the warm little home belonging to the two to take on a new look. Read more novels for free on our website, tinyurl.com/2aa54z8b. Partition wall. Here is another house, also an adobe courtyard wall, thatched house, and there is no place that looks outstanding. At this time, in a hut, a woman opened her bright pupils and muttered, "Ha, I didn't expect that there was a purple mansion realm powerhouse like me who came to this small city to live in seclusion." In her perception, a great cultivator of the purple mansion realm came from the next house. "She is the mysterious woman," the old woman said, wearing a simple yellow shirt. Although the yellow shirt is simple, it cannot hide her graceful figure. I saw that she was young and beautiful, about 20 years old, fair skin, a melon face, long eyelashes, and apricot eyes. Her appearance was very beautiful, her figure was slim, and she had a chew waist and sideburns. The temperament is noble and elegant, like a fairy in the dust. The body faintly exudes the aura of the same purple mansion realm. Her name is Zhongli Yuncheng. Her real identity is the emperor of the Zhongzhou Dian dynasty, and she is also a sword cultivator. Have time to talk to her. Zhong Liancheng looked through the wall and glanced over there. Time flies by, and in the blink of an eye, the sun sets at dusk. After a while, the town was shrouded in darkness. At night, in front of the house where Yi Qingyao was, 3 strong and wild black men came one after another. The person at the head is the town of Kansai. "Big brother, are there really beautiful women here?" One of the black men rubbed his hands expectantly, and the extreme excitement could not be concealed in his tone. The other person's eyes lit up, like a cat catching fish in the dark night, and said with a smile, "Big brother, when you are full, don't forget the brothers." Zheng Guanqi said ecstatically, "When did Lao Tzu treat you badly?" "After going in for a while, I kicked the kid directly, and then tied the beauty to me, and the brothers will be happy like fairies tonight." After a burst of joy, everyone jumped up the wall, directly climbed over the wall into the house, and rushed towards the house. Soon, the 3 came to the front of the house, found that the main door was unlocked, and exploded the door with 1 foot, only listening to the bang. And what came into view was really a woman like a flower. This woman is so beautiful, in the eyes of these rough people, they only feel like the mythical and legendary Chang'e, and like the goddess Chang'e in the Moon Palace. They can't describe it without ink in their stomachs, anyway. It's just one word, beauty. Bang! Zheng Guanqi slapped the table and shouted, "That little cub, such a beautiful beauty is not something you can enjoy, don't want to die and get out quickly. Let the brothers enjoy it." With that, he unfastened his belt. Snap! Su Chang'e slapped him hard in the face, instantly fanning his face, tilting his nose to the side, and splashing blood. Do you dare to hit Lao Tzu?" Snap! Another slap directly slapped off all his teeth, mixed with blood, and flew out. And he himself screamed, "Ah," dizzy, and flew out directly upside down. "You dare to hit me? You dare to hit me?" Zheng Guanqi got up from the ground, covered his nose, and howled, "Good balls. Tell you, Lao Tzu is the soil emperor here, you have a big deal, give Lao Tzu." Wait. After speaking, he waved his big hand, and rushed back angrily to call people. Hearing that something happened here, the neighbors quickly turned off the lights, fearing that they would get into trouble. This small city, the town of Guanqi, is the head snake, who dares to provoke Not long after, a figure appeared outside the door. The figure just stood outside the courtyard gate and did not enter rashly. Because the gate is locked. Yi Qingyao sensed it from a distance, frowned slightly, walked out of the hall, and asked, "Are you from Zhangguangxi?" "It's not." An indifferent and rude voice came from outside the door, "I am your neighbor. The owner should have introduced me to you." Yi Qingyao's eyes flashed with enlightenment. It turned out to be the mysterious woman. Why did she come to herself? "Are you okay at this late hour?" Doubtful words came out of Yi Qingyao's mouth. Zhong Liancheng said, "Is it convenient to go in and say?" Yi Qingyao opened the courtyard door and said, "The visitor is a guest, please. Come in." Zhong Liancheng entered the house, looked around, and said with a smile, "This place has been cleaned up, like a place for people to live." Yi Qingyao responded with a smile. Soon, the two entered the hall, and after greeting each other, they began to get down to business. "Let's be honest, this palace is the emperor of the Zhongzhou Dian dynasty. And you are the same as the Purple Mansion realm, but the main palace is the middle of the Purple Mansion realm, and it is a few small realms higher than you, and there is nothing else here, just want to compete with you, maybe. There will be something to gain." Zhong Liyun said. The reason why she lived in seclusion here was because her cultivation was stuck in the 5 heavens of the Purple Mansion, and she had not been able to advance an inch, so in desperation, she left the imperial dynasty, traveled through the Kanglan realm, and lived here after passing here, and concentrated on the Tao. And this day is 3 years. It was rare that a great cultivator who was also a Purple Mansion realm passed by today, so she wanted to find an opportunity to have a discussion, and maybe she would realize some breakthrough opportunity. Yi Qingyao said with a smile, "Let the Taoist friends down, I came to live in seclusion with apprentices. I don't like to dance swords, if the emperor is fine, please come back." Seclusion with apprentices? Zhong Liancheng was slightly stunned, scanning the surroundings, only to find that there was also a young man in the room. She pondered for a moment, hit Suchunga's idea, and said, "Since you don't want to, let's change your apprentice to compete with the main palace. After staying alone for a long time, it is inevitable that some hands will itch, so I stubbornly want to find someone to talk to." But just as the words fell, Zhong Liancheng suddenly discovered something. Glanced at Suchunga, and said in amazement, "No cultivation?" In his perception, there was not even a trace of cultivation aura on this person. Suchunga was about to speak, she waved her hand, a little regretful, and said indifferently, "Forget it, this palace never bullies the weak." After speaking, he didn't wait for an answer, and directly got up and left. Yi Qingyao patted her forehead and said helplessly, "Apprentice, she speaks too straight, a little hurtful, don't go to your heart." "It won't." Suchunga shook his head. "Hunga never bullies the weak? This woman, hey, has personality." After a while, the cool air came down, Yi Qingyao blew out the lamp candle. Her cheeks were slightly crimson, and said softly, "Apprentice, how do you sleep at night?" Suchunga hugged her and said with a smile, "What to sleep, get up." Yi Qingyao didn't understand what he meant by this, but she suddenly felt a little crispy on her body. As soon as he lowered his head, he found that a pair of his palms were pressing on him. "You." Suchunga grabbed another handful, it felt awesome. Yi Qingyao's body was numb, and she only felt weak and collapsed in Suchunga's arms. Suchunga touched 2 more fiercely. "Anyway, this is not a sect, and there are no outsiders, so she doesn't have to worry about how to manipulate her." Yi Qingyao's face was drunk, the corners of her eyes were springy, and she lay down in his arms and kept squirming. Fell asleep comfortably. Late at night, 3 more. Suchanga covered Yiqinyao with a thin quilt and walked out. Walked to the courtyard, jumped directly over the wall, and came to Zhong Liancheng's house. He knocked lightly on the door of the hall and said, "Sister Emperor, are you sleeping?" Read more novels for free on our website, tinyurl.com/2aa54z8b. Through the meeting just now, he felt that Zhong Liancheng was slightly older than him, no more than 2 years old at most, so he called it so. "Who?" Inside, there was Zhong Liyun's voice. "It's me, the one on the wall." Suchanga coughed lightly twice. "So it was you." Zhong Liyun's gaze was cold. As the saying goes, men and women are not intimate. This person came to find himself so late. Is it because he looks at his beautiful appearance, and his status is noble, and he has the idea of non-separation? She covered the quilt a little tighter, covering her snow-white body, and said, in a cold voice, "It's so late, what are you looking for me?" "Isn't my sister looking for someone to talk to?" Xiao Kutsai, willing to accompany my sister to have a discussion or two. I only hope that my sister can bear it. Talk? Zhong Liyun's gaze became even colder. This is even more in the middle of the night. The discussion is fake, coveting yourself is the truth. Okay, just come. She was ready to teach this bastard a lesson, and save him from thinking about it in the middle of the night. Squeak! The door opened, and Suchanga's eyes lit up. I saw Zhong Liyun wearing a thin light tulle, and the skin like snow loomed under the light tulle, as intoxicating as the moon. I haven't waited for him to see more. I saw a jade foot raised, the movement was swift, and in an instant, this foot flashed in front of the eyes, and you can clearly see that the nails of the toes are coated with red nail polish, conveying an intoxicating fragrance, and there is also a woman's fragrance. Bang! This kick kicked straight on Suchanga's face. Huh? Zhong Liyun's beautiful eyes froze. Didn't kick this disciple out? Sister Emperor, why bother? Don't you want to fight? What does this mean by giving me a kick? The voice just fell. Oh, you want me to touch your jade feet? Ha ha ha, this kind of thing is even more talented, and it will satisfy you well. Suchanga grabbed her jade foot and squeezed it fiercely on her milky white and tender foot. It feels soft and silky. Very soft and tender. It feels amazingly great to the touch. You lecher. Zhong Liyun's face turned red for a moment. Who has ever touched her foot under the sun? In the past 19 years, the body of Yubi has never been touched by any man. Except his parents. But now he was touched by a strange man who had just known each other for less than a day and hadn't even said the right thing. In an instant, she raised her eyebrows, and immediately drew her sword, ready to kill this disciple. But before he could make a move, he saw the disciple in front of him wave his big hand, and the breath on his body suddenly changed, and a thick and profound divine aura like an ancient dragon suddenly poured out. It was as if a humanoid dragon had let go of its murderous aura and appeared at this moment, shocking the world. Boom! The breath was surging, cathartic, and suddenly there was a faint explosion of thunderclouds in the sky, like the sound of a dragon roaring a tiger, ear-shattering roar. But soon, it was suppressed. Immediately after, Suchanga shot out lightning fast, pressed a palm on her shoulder, and said. Offended, her figure suddenly disappeared, and in an instant, it took her to climb to the void. During the whole process, Zhong Liyun's brain was blank, and when he came back to his senses, he found that he had soared into the void. This breath, her pupils shrank sharply, and her wrists trembled. This coercion was too terrifying. She felt that it was not a person standing in front of her, but an ancient dragon, just a sweep of her eyes, all of which made her heart jump. Her face turned white, and she was shocked. "Sister Emperor, don't you want to talk? Come, Xiao can play with you. P.S. Thank you for the gift from Hongming yesterday. There are also love letters and inspiration capsules sent by I Want to Marry White, and other gifts such as milk tea, praise, reminders, love letters, etc. The small author here, due to the space reasons of your big name, will not be written, but all remembered in the heart. Thank you, Crab, thank you very much." In addition, many new readers have recently been added, and when asking the update time, the little author will reply uniformly, and the daily update time is 9 o'clock in the morning on time, stable 3 chapters and 6,000 words every day. This. Zhong Liancheng blushed. I felt that my face was scalding, as if I had been roasted by fireworks. After a long time, she bit her white jade lips, withered, and asked, "Then that one? You, aren't you not cultivated?" Suchanga smiled and said, "Sister Emperor, don't everyone in this small city also think that you have no cultivation?" This, Zhong Liancheng understood. When people come here to live in seclusion, they will definitely not show their cultivation. Suddenly, she lowered her head. What was he thinking just now? What did he think about himself? By God, how could people have thoughts about themselves? It is clear that he is the one who can't climb high. And what did he say before? Not to bully the weak. I am the weakling. Her flowers trembled, and her wrists trembled with her sword. At this moment, she suddenly remembered something again, and her voice trembled. "You. No, Gongzi, don't be so respectful to me, I can't bear the word sister. You can call me Xiaochong, or Yunchong." Suchanga threw a friendly look at her. Yun Xiang's little head was buried low, not daring to look up at his gaze. Suchanga put away his breath and said, "Aren't you going to talk?" Still stunned for what, you and I will see. This, Yun Xiang's little head was buried lower, and her cheeks were full of shame. Everything she was proud of was smashed at this moment, like a fragile stalk, which could not withstand a little toss. Can it be compared to the birds? She felt that her moves were as worthless as a chicken pecking rice in front of this humanoid dragon, and she felt inferior in her heart, and did not dare to rashly sacrifice ugly. When Suchanga saw her gesture, he thought a little in his heart, and immediately guessed 8 or 9 points. He smiled kindly, his demeanor was a little more approachable, and said, "Don't be restrained, just shoot." Read more novels for free on our website, tinyurl.com/2aa54z8b. That. Alright. Yun Song couldn't resign, and he also wanted to be guided by this master, so he was a little shaken. And at this moment, she also suddenly felt that she had been cultivating swords for so long, even if she was far from this master, but it seemed that she could handle it, Thinking of this, she gave a salute and withered, "That Yuncheng is ugly." "Well, that's right, let's make a move." Suchanga nodded. Zhong Liyun stood in place, taking a deep breath, as if he was making preparations. After a few moments, her eyes opened and closed, and she drew her sword. I saw her dancing lightly, like a northern beauty dancing with a sword. Peerless and independent, a trace of sword light like a dragon flying phoenix, dancing out with the steps. her sword, calm and extremely sharp. If lightning rushes to thunder, dancing in the air one after another brilliant. After images, like an ancient god phoenix soaring into the sky, its claws slashing through the void, leaving a series of gorgeous divine clouds, and like a heavenly woman scattering flowers, the divine light is brilliant. Flying silver snakes. Probably a few breaths later, she let out that turbid breath and put away her sword. This is a demo. There are generally two types of monks. The first is a presentation, let people comment. The second is a real shot between each other. Right now, Zhonglian's sword is a demonstration. She demonstrated this sword, which was the best sword technique in her life. It was a top secret in the imperial dynasty, and it was easily never revealed. And only the imperial lord of the entire dynasty was qualified to practice. Therefore, it is quite arrogant. A sword dance, her beautiful eyes flashed with pieces of colorful light and streamers, faintly revealing a bit of arrogance, but also wanted to get the praise of the master, biting her lip and stumbling, Gongzi, my sword, well. Seems to. Doesn't seem bad? Suchanga smiled and did not reply immediately. The emperor of an imperial dynasty must have two brushes in his hand. If you have to ask him to comment, you can probably get 80 points for 100 points, and the reason why the remaining 20 points are not given is that something is missing. P.S. The old doors were divided into two types. 1. The door of the hall house. That is, the main entrance. The commonly known three rooms of tile houses are this, the east house, the west house, and the hall house. 2. The gate of the yard. The house mentioned here is such a structure because the details in the text are to be used. I will explain it specifically. Gongzi, why don't you speak? Is it that my sword is too humble, seeing that? Suchanga did not reply to himself at the first time. Zhong Liancheng's heart suddenly became a little anxious. I hope he speaks quickly. He is dying. After a short while, Suchanga finally gave a sentence. Your sword, too slow. Too slow? Zhonglian's heart jumped, both happy and disappointed, and hurriedly asked, what's the slow method? There was a caution in his tone that he didn't admit defeat. Suchanga carried his hands behind his back and recalled the scene just now. In his eyes, a light of wisdom overflowed. He absorbed the blood of the emperor, but he became an emperor. How unique his vision was. He saw through Yuncheng's set of sword techniques at a glance, and even drew inferences from one to another, deducing various flaws and shortcomings. Although Yunxiang's sword was sharp, it lacked an invincible momentum. Although your sword is sharp and skillful enough, it is not imposing enough. Just like drawing a tiger against a cat in a sword, although it is very similar, but there is no soul. Suchanga said lightly. As soon as these words came out, Yunxiang's pupils suddenly contracted, and his heart was shocked. If you think about it, it seems to be true. When she was in the imperial dynasty, she painstakingly studied the sword book for 10 years, and practiced against the sword book, only understanding the surface, but did not understand the inner meaning. That mystery was so profound that she had not comprehended it for a whole decade. Even she herself didn't realize it. But I didn't expect that it would be said by others today. Not only this sword technique, but also many other sword techniques, in her sword cultivation process, they are all the same, only practicing the skin and not comprehending deeper things. Could it be that he is my chance? Yuncheng suddenly came up with a possibility. Leaving Zhongzhou and walking through thousands of rivers and mountains, just to unravel that barrier, so that Xiaowei could continue to break through and enter a higher level. But he has been searching hard for it, and finally chose to live in seclusion. In this small city, aimlessly enlightened. But 3 years have passed without gain. She was desperate, but she didn't expect that suddenly a high-ranking person came. It's unpredictable. She smiled wryly. Immediately, she bowed and said, the little woman wants to ask the senior for advice, but she is non-committal? Yes. Suchanga nodded first, and then his gaze fell on her pair of white, tender jade feet, and said, I'm a person, sometimes I like to play, you can let me point, but you have to give me some benefits, right? Zhong Liancheng was first stunned, and then saw his slightly burning gaze. And suddenly understood something, his cheeks suddenly flushed, and his hands were nervously crossed together. He touched it just now, do you still want to touch it now? But read more novels for free on our website, tinyurl.com/2aa54z8b. After a while, she seemed to have prepared a psychological struggle and whispered, then, that you come, touch, speaking of this, she bit Dan's lip and couldn't continue. Then, he took off the shoes on his feet and approached Suchanga. Soon, she came to Suchanga's eyes, no more than a stone's throw away from him, looking at each other. Biting her lips, she twisted her face to the side, closed her eyes, stretched out a tender white jade foot, opened and closed her lips, and said softly, come. Suchanga has never been a pretentious person, and put a palm on her soft, white and tender jade feet, playing with it to her heart's content. I have to say that this foot is like a piece of beautiful jade, it is impossible to describe it in 3 words of art, especially the bright red nail polish, which is the finishing touch, setting off the whole jade foot. More charming. Ah, Yunxiang's body trembled slightly, Dan's lips bit tighter, and his eyes closed tighter than just now. After playing for half an hour, Suchanga withdrew his hand. However, when he took it back, he touched her white thigh. Yunchang did not stop it, biting her lips and letting him be at his mercy. When all this was over, Suchanga said, okay, open your eyes. Yunsang opened her eyes. The cheeks have reached their peak, like the sunset in the evening sky. Suchanga entered the theme and said, although I don't cultivate swords, the 18 types of weapons in the world are all connected, learn one of them. And even if you don't know the other 17, you can see the doorway. He pointed to the sword in Yunxiang's hand and said, in my opinion, whether it is kendo or cultivators who take other routes, they can be divided into 3 realms. Which threefold? The first wait, there is a sword in the hand, and there is a sword in the heart. The cultivator of this realm has a soldier in hand, kills 1 person in 10 steps, does not leave a line for thousands of miles, and goes to the clothes. After everything, is simply neat, and never drags mud and water. The second wait, there is no sword in the hand, there is a sword in the heart. This realm can already enter the ranks of masters. One general rule is 100 doors, 18 kinds of weapons can be controlled freely, can sweep 1,000 armies in an instant, and break the enemy thousands of miles away. Third, there is no sword in the hand, and there is no sword in the heart. There are very few people who can achieve this realm, and there are very few cultivators in this realm often do not need to carry weapons with them, but take everything under the world as soldiers. You don't see some top power, grass can go to heaven and earth in a millimeter, and a grass can cut off the stars, the sun, and the moon. In general, whether it is a sword, a knife, or a halberd, they are all connected, the so-called inseparable from their ancestors. Many weapons in the world all pay attention to a fast and ruthless, pay attention to the other. Crisp and neat. What the soldier points to, go forward. Your kind of thing is missing a touch of indomitable momentum. In layman's terms, it is fast and ruthless. Zhong Lian's body stunned, and then it was like grabbing something, and his eyes burst into brilliance. Swift and ruthless momentum. Is it? Dare to ask seniors, what is fast and ruthless? Can you make a move and let the little woman see the style?